This podcast is brought to you by the Prospect Research Institute, where researchers come to learn, innovate, and connect.
I mean, I'm one of the suckers that got stuck with NFTs just as the Cardano market fell apart. So I'm what they call the last fool. It's tulips and beanie babies all over again. That's what I see in wealth is there's this big turmoil of people trying to sneak in and get the gold and then sneak out.
Welcome to Prospect Research Chat Bites, a podcast by and for prospect research professionals. I'm Jennifer Filla. Today, I'm talking with Marianne Pelletier, Managing Director at Staupel Analytics Group. Hello, Marianne. Thank you for joining me today on Chat Bites.
Hi, Jen. It's good to see you.
Before we jump into our topic today, I'm hoping that you'll be willing to share a little bit about your career and also what you're doing right now.
Yeah, my career has been around a while. So I will start in 2015. I went ahead and went full time with consulting. In our profession, we actually need people to step out of organizations and do consulting to help us out in certain different projects. What we're doing right now is we're in the middle of a few things. We are offering an in-person course in Springfield, Massachusetts, March 6 and 7. One is on prospect development for people who want to build their prospect development course or think about how well this is constructed. The second is data science for beginners using R. That's a big deal for us. It's our first in-person gig. We're really looking forward to teaching people in person again. I rather miss being in a classroom. The other things we're working on an online course on text analytics. And we're doing a lot of work with clients with database conversions. We're seeing a lot of database conversions, and we're doing a lot of work helping clients figure out what their data is and where it is. And of course, I'm doing analytics wherever and whenever I can.
Right, because analytics is your thing.
Analytics is my baby, yep.
When was the first time that you really said, yeah, this is it, analytics, I'm going for it?
Oh, I should do this like a television character. Picture it. It's 1998. I'm sitting in my MBA class, and the marketing professor says, your marketing team says you can sell 100,000 widgets if you do it this way. How do you do it this way? And I raised my hand and said, how did they figure that out? And 3 people turned around to me and said, you have to take the quantitative analysis course. And then I took the quantitative analysis course. And in 1999, Peter Wiley came out with his article, Model Behavior, which is what got me and my administrative assistant, who was also in an MBA program, same program. Both of us took quantitative analysis and we did that survey and we raised annual giving in 1 year by 50%. It was all over. I got religion. Yep.
Yeah, you drank the Kool-Aid.
Uh-huh.
That's great. That's a good story. Thinking back on 2022, looking ahead in 2023 and beyond, what kind of trends are you seeing for your business, for the field of philanthropy, for the field of, wealth generation? What do you see?
One of the things that we've seen pretty much all along is organizations don't want to just buy us to do their analytics for them. People want us to teach them how to do it, right? And there's that constant ethos in the nonprofit, don't spend money, spend time. So if somebody can do it, then you can learn how to do it too. Go fly that spaceship, because somebody else could do it, so you have to do it for the cause. But at the same time, people want those skills to be internal. So we've always coupled training with offering the service directly. If you don't want to do it, we'll do it. If you want to learn how to do it, we'll teach you how to do it. If you want to learn how to do it while we do it with you, we'll do that, right? So we've been doing a lot of adaptability pieces for that. The second trend in nonprofits is that people are looking for much shorter engagements. So the whole, we hired a consultant and we have a contract every year with the same consultant. We're seeing a lot less of that and more of, we have this specific project. Can you step in, help us out with this in a defined way? And we'll take it from there.
Do you think that episodic use of consultants, do you think that comes out of uncertainty? There's a lot of economic uncertainty right now.
There's economic uncertainty right now. Yep. I believe our clients and our prospective clients are hearing that a recession is coming and are cutting back on cost, cutting back on expenses.
And at the same time, looking to train employees, because wouldn't it be better if they could do it in-house?
Right. And here we are, right? This is the two-edged sword, right? So the smallest shops are the ones that need automation the most, but they don't grasp that. So if I talk to really small shops and I say, hey, you need to do a survey and we need to automate your gift processing and we need to do this, they say, oh yeah, but can you do a screening for us? And I'm like, you have 900 records. What are you screening? Right. So when we go through that, when we go through that exercise, it's always like learn how to automate things and learn how to make things faster and better because you have two people. And then the really large shops are like, who can we lay off? Well, none of our clients are saying they're laying people off. I'm still sitting notices from clients that certain staff have left. So I think that what we used to see in May, where everybody stood up and went to a different job and then sat back down again, we're seeing that over the winter now. The big piece for us is that the clients are not looking for, maybe not with us, not looking for those huge expenditures. So I think that people bought into all the economists and the television pundits saying we're coming into a recession, we're coming into a recession. But the training, just like you're saying, right? What's the first thing you cut when you cut your budget? You cut your training because you assume that somebody could just figure it out or, read a book, and then they become much less effective. And then there's that awful paradigm that we walk around with. The HR guy says, well, what if we train these people and they leave? And the CEO says, what if we don't and they stay? So if I send somebody through and teach them, have them learn all about modeling and stuff, and then they go away, we have a mutual friend who has that problem. Then what have I won? I won everybody else on the team who knows that I will invest in people.
You mentioned the small shop, and one of the other things I've seen happening, certainly to me even, is that there's this scattering of new tools and software and approaches, and there's a lot of sales talk around it that clouds what it really is or what it can really do. And much like with communications, how do you reach someone anymore? There's so many different platforms. It becomes very difficult to make a good decision about which tool to buy. So if I'm small, how do I know which research tool? How do I know which database I should buy? It's become very difficult to make that decision.
I'd say once a month on the AFP listserv, they say we're a small blah, 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 which database should we use? And everybody pipes right back in with the top three. And then it comes down and then somebody starts the topic up again in about a month. And it's difficult. So often it's, I use this at my last shop. I went to a conference and I really liked the salesman, right? But the piece for analytics is that everybody's trying to jump into the nonprofit market because they think there's money here. And there is. And so all these guys from boopity boop, AI boop boop are calling me up and saying, hey, we've got some synergies. And I'm like, hey, no, we don't. I'm certain that the text to give companies are crawling all over our colleagues and clients. And it wouldn't surprise me, like the crypto came up with 5 different companies at once to take crypto gifts. And that was a big discussion on the AFP listserv. But we talk to each other. That's why we go to conferences and then talk to the vendors. And that's why we go on listservs and ask each other. The recommender system is more sophisticated now than I've ever known it. Not just Facebook or Yelp. It's all my colleagues say, don't go to them. They stink. Then, they're going to drop out of the market at some point.
I've also seen that it feels like deja vu with AI. So certainly there's improvements and forward movement with tools that engage machine learning. But when I read some of the marketing materials, it sounds exactly the same as before when the companies were saying, buy our tool and we will solve all your problems. And you don't need to do a thing. You don't need to look at it because it's accurate. And it makes me cringe.
Yeah, that's my favorite. We have the magic bullet. I'm like, I don't want anybody to get shot. Yeah, and actually you've teased me about that when I talked about trying to build a capacity rating tool. How do we reduce the amount of time that I use to process capacity rating data to the point where I have open time to do the creative piece, which is the final decision. And the first thing out of your mouth is, oh, you're trying to write a magic bullet. And I am. But maybe I'm just trying to write a magic slingshot. We're taught that in sales, you have to promise to fix everything, right? When we talk to clients directly, they actually walk up to us when we're at a booth or we're talking to clients. They walk up to us and they say, this is the problem that we have. So one of the biggest things that we say at StopHell is we don't care what tool you're using. If we have to learn your tool, we'll learn it, because a lot of vendors prefer to force clients to adapt to whatever they do. We also don't want to take client data off their systems. So there's some of the tools that has said your data has to live on our system in order to access our stuff, and then you can look, I'm air quoting, look. Those are fading out too because of the whole security of data. But also, if I have to go look at one record at a time, I have no way to score my database, segment my database, that kind of thing. So the adaptability piece is That's a big one, but the whole thing about, you won't need a research team if you have our AI tool. Well, first of all, most of these AI companies that say they're AI, they're just modeling companies, but they're using machine learning tools to model because AI is learning on the fly whether or not that's Marianne's face or Jen's face that's walking by the compute camera right now. And some of the machine learning tools that are used in AI are tools that I use in modeling, but it's modeling. So we go around with that.
One of the other things that AI holds promise for
Yeah.
is changing the way that we communicate with our donors. So
Right.
There's been a lot of talk about donors in decline, which I'm skeptical, mostly because of the data collection methods. But also we're seeing some innovations in how people are engaging donors, like actually talking to them, providing activities where they can have a voice on the mission and input into that mission. What have you seen coming out in terms of tools or activity or even how it affects data?
You're saying that donors are in decline and you don't believe it. I have to wonder, what is the influence of crowdsourcing and Facebook giving? So is that reducing the number of donors that we know about, but increasing the number of actual donors? We freak out as an industry when we don't have control over content that goes out and content that comes in. So there's some nervousness around, well, we didn't write to them and ask them. They came over the transom. How come this person was missed? Who didn't get this person? So we go like that, right? But the point is to always have your message out there and have it radiating, and then, respond to the critics. So even text to give is a phone number. So the whole who is that person? We have a lot less of that information. Even if I make a gift online, I don't know if I have to give you my name and address. I could just give you an email, or I can just say I'm not giving to you unless you just take my email. And that becomes a problem because, what if I'm a gangster or whatever?
Right. The due diligence side.
Right.
It feels very freeing for the donor because it becomes more like making a gift to a neighbor in need. How about wealth? Any trends that you're seeing on that or that are impacting data?
You remember in the 90s, it was like the first time really young people got rich in our lifetimes. In the 90s, all these young men in hoodies got rich. Or no, this was before the hoodies. I'm sorry. It was Bill Gates. And then the bubble burst and then everything calmed down, but Bill Gates is still rich. And then Zuckerberg came through. It blew up. Those guys are offering something in exchange for their wealth. Right now, the guys who are getting really rich suddenly, and we're hearing about them, they're crypto guys and they're NFT guys. They sell something that may or may not have value tomorrow, and then they get their money. The New York Times is writing this morning about regulators are starting to look very carefully at crypto exchanges. One of them is one that I'm on. So I'm like, do I have to withdraw my money or not? And the get rich quick frenzy is over stuff that I don't see as having value. Bill Gates made my life better. Even Elon Musk, he introduced electric cars and he introduced the competition. Warren Buffett kept See's Candy going. But when we're talking about, I walked in and I sold all this crypto right at the right time to people who were suckers, and then I left. I mean, I'm one of the suckers that got stuck with NFTs just as the Cardano market fell apart. Right. So I'm what they call the last fool. It's tulips and Beanie Babies all over again. That's what I see in wealth is this big turmoil of people trying to sneak in and get the gold and then sneak out. I don't see industries that are building, except having said that, I always have to say something positive. Having said that, we also learned during COVID that we really depend on countries on the other side of the world to make things like our semiconductors and our solar panels and our medicine. And I have to wonder how much of that manufacturing is going to come back and bring the middle class back. What I have watched over the last 30 years is the erosion of the middle class. And I'd like to see the middle class come back because that's the backbone of industry and creativity for us.
So before I let you go, do you have any resources that you want to share with everyone?
Let's see, what am I reading now? I'm reading a book called FYI for Your Improvement. And what I love about this book is that it has topics where it talks about ways that you are competent or not competent and ways that you can fix it. The cool thing is that it describes what that characteristic is. Then it describes how it helps you when you have it. And then it describes how it hinders you when you have it, what obstacles it gives. Then it describes what you can do to fix it. And then it describes substitute competencies. And I'm chewing on that concept, substitute competencies, because in life, we call that delegating it to somebody else, right? I'm not good at events, so I'm asking for help to create events. But that notion of substitute competency, what am I doing instead of being able to ride a bicycle, on one wheel? I'm really enjoying that. And I'm sorry, the other book is not interesting, is the R Cookbook.
R cookbook.
The R cookbook, yeah, and it's just different things I can do in R because I want to teach R, but also where one of my client projects is I'm taking their alumni surveys and I've changed the questions over time. So I can't just extract column B. I have to intuit the pieces of information that they really need and bring it up from 20 years of surveys. So I'm using R to do a lot of that grunt work. So I have the R cookbook to help me out if I get stuck.
Well, that's cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for letting me spout off. I look forward to hearing the comments about whether people agree with me about the crypto thing. Thanks, Jen.
That was Marianne Pelletier, Managing Director at Staupel Analytics Group. If you were inspired by Marianne's love story with analytics and its impact on fundraising, check out her trainings. In March 2023, she even has in-person opportunities. Visit her now at www.staupel.com/in-person-training.html. Or just visit staupel.com, click on training, and check out the in-person trainings. You won't be disappointed. Hey, if you enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come check out the Prospect Research Institute's learning community. It's a membership community with powerful resources, great discussions, and comprehensive courses. Check it out at member.prospectresearchinstitute.org. I'd love to have you join me as a member of the learning community. See you there.